Heartbreaking story, this one, Kieran. Sarah Caisip, 26-year-old woman, blocked from going to her father's funeral. She might have this exemption, but she's basically blocked from the funeral. Let's make no mistake about that. After intervention from the PM and a media storm, she has been allowed to see her father's body, but not comfort her 11-year-old sister at the funeral, even though she comes from virus-free Canberra. She's in hotel quarantine. Sarah has told me by text message, yes, I've been granted exemption to only view the body after the funeral. So the rest of her family is going to attend that funeral, Kieran. And Sarah, 26-year-old, who's lost her father, will be allowed to see the body afterwards. Pretty heartless stuff, really. Scott Morrison personally rang Annastacia Palaszczuk about the case after ringing Sarah this morning. I spoke to Sarah just after 11 a.m. and she had not heard by then any answer in terms of the funeral or viewing her father's body, so she's only learned at the last minute she can go after the funeral. You talk about the effect on mental health. Let's hear Scott Morrison, who lost his dad this year, about this case, where he said his advocacy is not about politics or elections, neither is the issue, as he spoke to Ray Hadley. And then from Annastacia Palaszczuk talking to the Queensland Parliament about this.
And sadly, she wasn't able to see her father before he passed. She tried to get up there, but the process to get an exemption to travel took 20 days, I understand. And so she missed that opportunity, and this is her last opportunity to say farewell to her dad. Now, all of us who've been through that process know how important a day like today is. It's still fresh. And look, this isn't about the Premier of Queensland and me or anyone else. And it's just about that. Surely, in the midst of all of this heartache in COVID and everything that everyone's going through, surely just this once, this can be done. It can be done. There's been no COVID cases in the ACT for more than 60 days.
I will not be bullied, nor will I be intimidated.
Order.
By the Prime Minister of this country, who contacted me this morning and who I made very clear to the fact
Everton will put his comments through the chair.
It was not my decision, that I would pass the information on to the Chief Health Officer, and it is the Chief Health Officer's decision to make. Mr Speaker.
Member for Nicklin is warned under standing orders.
The Prime Minister at the time said to me that he had not gone public, but, Mr Speaker, I knew that he would go public, Mr Speaker.
As long as these types of things go on, then these things are still going to keep happening. But just today, please. That's my plea.
OK, it's a plea that I join you with. I don't know that we'll get any satisfaction because this morning in Parliament the Premier's accused you of bullying her, but it's not about bullying.
It was very emotional in that interview with the Prime Minister. Opposition health spokesman Chris Bowen, he came under pressure a short time ago, re what federal Labor and Anthony Albanese could do in terms of advocacy to a Labor Premier.
Chris, this is Are You OK Day, and you make the point, but Sarah's now been told by the Queensland government she can't go to the funeral, but she can be taken under police escort. She's a 26-year-old woman, take under police escort to a private viewing of her dad's body at the morgue. Like, has Annastacia Palaszczuk got this wrong?
Well, all I can do, Chris, is say that I would encourage everybody to take as compassionate approach as possible based on the health advice available to them. Yeah, but Chris,
forget the health advice. Have you or Mr Albanese picked the phone up like the Prime Minister did and tell Annastacia Palaszczuk, please, you just sort this out?
I have from time to time had occasion to make representations to various state ministers, and on every occasion I found them responsive.
Even outside the lack of humanity here, refusing this young woman entry to the funeral is dumb politics, in my view. I can only assume that the Queensland government thinks that if she were given permission, it would lead to a flood of stories from others who have missed family members' funerals in Queensland because of these strict rules. Perhaps that flood of stories is coming anyway. One wonders whether this will be a turning point in this state border politics issue. Having said that, apparently a Channel 7 poll in Queensland this week found 87% support for Annastacia Palaszczuk's position on borders. In 2001, I covered the Tampa election with John Howard's election victory based on the Pacific solution and keeping asylum seekers out. At the time, Howard's phrase, "We will decide who comes to this country," and the circumstances in which they come helped him win the election. The focus group research in Queensland, I'm told, is coming up with similar sentiments on state border closures. Every time the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian speaks on it and criticises Annastacia Palaszczuk, Palaszczuk's ratings go up. Now, Greg Hunt, the Federal Health Minister, he spoke to Kieran a short time ago and gave himself a last-minute plea, tugging at the heartstrings here, saying, let the lady attend the funeral.
I would gently and respectfully encourage the Queensland Government and any Queensland medical authorities to be compassionate, to show the common humanity. These are agonising cases, and I know we've been able, Kieran, to work quietly and gently with a number of states and territories on compassionate cases. We haven't raised them publicly, we've worked on them quietly. This is now public, but I'd simply say, imagine it was your father. And if that's the case, then I'm sure this can be done in a COVID-safe way with masks and distancing, but the ability to be there in person.
If it is based on the health advice, this decision in Queensland, I'd love to hear from Jeanette Young as to how she and her authorities are weighing up the risk of a 26-year-old from a jurisdiction where there hasn't been a COVID case in more than 60 days versus the mental health impact on the mother, the 11-year-old sister, today. I mean, what sort of response, what sort of logic is there? There is none.
I think one of the things that worries me in the coverage of this pandemic is it's brought out, as well as paranoia about the virus, selfishness in a lot of people, Kieran. And there are probably people in Queensland who support this decision, a lot of them. It's not about Queensland, it could be in WA, it could be any of these states. I mean, have a heart for this young woman. She comes from a virus-free area. They haven't had a case for 60 days. Surely that some of these rules can be waived around the place. They're too harsh as it is. They're too ridiculous as it is. But they're obviously popular electorally because the numbers tell the story. Let's see where we're at as a Commonwealth, as a country, a few months down the track, I guess.
Yeah, I've got to say this afternoon...
And Kieran, I just want to say...
You just feel for that little kid, the 11-year-old there, without a big sister to help her. I mean, I find this absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, Kieran, I just want to say this too. It just came to me, sorry. If anyone else has a story like this, can you tell us? Because Kieran and I think we'll keep going with this. We want to know other examples of people who are missing funerals, are missing seeing their dying loved ones because of these border rules. Whether it's WA, Tasmania, Queensland, we want to know about it because it's important people know the human cost of this. When there are, apart from in Melbourne, there are very few cases of this virus in Australia.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, yeah, anyway, we'll move on for the moment, but this is reprehensible, this situation, and it's happening right this second as we're going to wear the gentleman's funeral and that young kid in there. So you can't stop thinking about, you know, she needs her sister and she's not there. It is absolutely disgraceful.